Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Torah portion. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our weekly Torah class on the portion of the week. This week's Torah portion is in Numbers, chapter 30. Verse 2. It's actually a double portion this week. There's two portions this week. And the first one is the one we're going to be focused on. It's the portion of Matot. And in the portion, there are three main themes. The portion starts on page 1012. 10, 11, 10, 12. There are basically three main topics in this week's Torah portion. The first topic is that of vows. If someone takes a vow, he has to fulfill the vow. Whatever comes out of your mouth has to be, you gotta live, do what you say. You can't just say something and not do it. Make a vow, you gotta, you hold on to it. But then there's something called Annulment of Vowel. That if someone takes a vow, they can annul it. So, for example, what's a vow? A vow is, let's say you say, I'm not going to drink wine for 30 days. I got too hooked up with wine, and it's not good for me. I'm going to stay away, take a vow. Or you say, I'm not going to eat meat for 30 days, or for 6 months, whatever it is. You take a vow of some kind of vow like that. So there are times that such a vow could be annulled. So, for example, if someone, you can go to a rabbi and make an annulment of vows in front of three people, in front of a beis din, in front of a court. For example, you took it upon yourself to do something or to not do something, and then you realize that it's overwhelming you. You didn't realize the ramifications of this vow. So you can, and we do it out of Rosh Hashanah, we do what's called annulment of vows, the day before Rosh Hashanah. But in this week's Torah portion, it speaks more specifically about a woman who takes a vow when she's married or she's a minor. So the husband or the father are able to do that annulment of vows. Annulment. That's the first topic. And it goes into much detail and so on. We won't get into all the details. The second topic of the portion is the war, the final last war that Moses would wage. And that was against the Midianites. Midian is the one people that caused havoc among the Jewish people. They're the ones that caused the debacle that we read about last week and 2 weeks ago with the Jewish people. The men succumbed to the daughters of the Midianites and so on. It was a big crisis. 24,000 people died in that as a result of a plague that broke out. Much more. It says a couple of 100,000 Jews died, were guilty of it, and it was bad. Almost close to that. So they're the ones that caused that. So God told Moshe, you are to destroy Midian and battle against them and destroy them. And we read about that battle in this portion, but the bulk of this section about the war against Midian is not so much about the war itself. It's about what happens after the war. After the war, Moshe told them that they should divide. They can keep some of the booty, some of the spoils, but they have to give some of it to charity, to the Kohen, to the temple, to God, and so on. So it goes into a whole one. They took the count how many animals they got from the spoils and how much money they got from the spoils. It goes through a detailed account of that and how much they gave of that to charity. And then the third topic at the end of the portion is the story of the two tribes of Gad and Reuben. Two tribes approached Moses And again, for context, we're talking now the end of the 40 years in the desert. They're ready to go to Israel. They're just about to cross the Jordan. And two tribes come to Moses and tell him, we don't want to go to Israel. We are shepherds. That's our livelihood. We like doing that. And this pasture land in the place where they were in the Amorite countries, which they just conquered, was good pasture land. It's good for the pasture. It says we have lots of flock. We have a lot of cattle. And we think that this would be a better place for us to settle with our families and our tribes. Moshe is very upset with this, and comes down very hard on them. He says, how could you do that? You don't remember what happened 39 years ago when the spies went to Israel and they came back and gave a bad report and they demoralized the Jewish people and they didn't want to go as a result, and we got punished to wander in the desert for 40 years. Are you going to go now and do the same thing, and now the word's going to get out that you too don't want to go? You'll demoralize the Jewish people. They'll also get scared of going into battle with the 31 kings that are there. What are you doing? He gives them a real speech, a harsh speech. And they say to him, no, that's not what we want. In fact, the men will go into Israel, battle, and fight the wars with the Jewish people. And as long as the last Jew is not settled in his land, we will not go back to our land. We will not only fight the battle, but we'll help them settle the land. And they said we'll go forward in the front of the troops. We'll be in the front lines. We'll lead the troops. When Moshe hears that, he says, fine, that's a different story. And he makes that pact with them. He makes that deal. If you go with your men, we'll go back and go into Israel. Then he designates 2 tribes to live there. And they inherit the land. They build cities there. And they live happily ever after. Now, it turns out that when Joshua took the Jewish people into Israel, they went. They fulfilled their part of the deal. And they stayed in Israel for 14 years. They didn't go back to their families for 14 years because it took 7 years to battle to conquer the land, and it took another 7 to settle the land. So for 14 years, the men didn't go back home. They stayed in Israel to help their brethren, and only then did they go back to be with their families. Imagine that. That's a pretty good commitment. That's how the parsha ends, and that's the end of this portion.
To go back to the map, but where exactly are these Amorite territories today?
Today would be Jordan. If you look at a map, today is Jordan. And maybe southern Syria. No, it's probably more like Jordan.
I think there's a map in here somewhere.
There probably is. Maybe at the end of the parsha. Yeah, take a look at page 1029. So it's that side of the Jordan. Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk. What's the name of this parsha? Matos. What does Matos mean? Matos means tribes. The reason this portion gets the name tribes is because the opening words of the portion on page 1012 or 1013 is Moses spoke to the princes of the heads of the tribes. And in Hebrew it's called Matos. And the question is obviously, what's the connection between the word tribes, the word Matos to tribes? Usually when you look in the Torah all over, mostly tribes in Hebrew are called Shvatim. The 12 tribes are called the Yud Beit Shvatim, not Matos. Over here they're called Matos. There's got to be a reason for this. So let me share with you another interesting section from the prophets. I'm going to ask you to turn to page to the Haftorah that we read yesterday. This Haftorah could be found on page 1390. So before we read this, what's in this Torah, let me give you a little introduction. We find ourselves now in the 3 weeks between the 17th of Tammuz, which was last Sunday, and Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, which is going to be in 2 weeks Sunday. What are these 3 weeks? It's 3 weeks period of mourning, of sadness, because of the destruction of the temple. You all know the story. The temple was destroyed in the year 69 by the Romans. They broke through the walls on the 17th of Tammuz, and they destroyed the temple 3 weeks later on the 9th of Av. And we have a 3-week period of mourning. And during these 3 Shabbatot, these 3 Sabbaths, we read 3 special Haftorahs from the book of Jeremiah. Well, actually 2 from the book of Jeremiah, 1 from the book of Isaiah. And the parts that we read are about the harsh warnings that God gives the Jewish people in the event that they don't live up to their covenant and to what we committed to do at Sinai and so on. And Jeremiah is the book, if you ever read Jeremiah, it's full of these admonishing prophecies. It's a book of, it's not a very uplifting, so to say, a book. So, he's, Jeremiah was the prophet that, was chosen by God to be there to tell the Jewish people off, and they wanted to kill him. They actually tried to kill him. They couldn't take couldn't stand him, because he kept telling them, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. It was all doom and gloom for them. He was really giving it to them. So we read some of those sections. So yesterday was the first Shabbos of the 3 weeks, right? So I wanted to draw your attention to this part on page 1391, verse 11. Okay? Verse 11 says as follows. The word of God came to me, meaning to Jeremiah. By the way, Jeremiah was 8 years old when he became a prophet.
8 years?
8 years old. I think that's what it says. He was a young boy.
People recognize that.
That's right. If you read, it says over here, look at verse 6. Look at verse 6 here. God speaking to him. So he replied, I replied, alas, my God, my Lord God, behold, I do not know how to speak to them, for I am a youth, not yet worthy to rebuke them. I'm a kid. He didn't have his bar mitzvah yet. Yet Hashem said, you're a man. You're the boy. Anyway, so he tells him, and I look at verse 11. The word of God came to me saying, what do you see, Jeremiah? I said, I see a rod of an almond tree. God said to me, you have seen well, for just as an almond tree is quick to blossom, I hasten my word to accomplish it. And just as it takes 21 days for an almond tree to ripen its fruit after it blossoms, 21 days will pass from the day the enemy breaks through Jerusalem's walls until the temple will be burnt. You get it? Self-explanatory, right? Okay. What's going on over here? The prophet sees, God asks him, what do you see? And he says, I see a staff, a rod of an almond tree. He doesn't see the almonds. He sees the staff of an almond tree. And what's the symbolism here? Why is God showing him an almond tree? And the reason is, as he said, because he's trying to hint to him in the prophecy, this is of an image that he's seeing, which has a message behind it, that I'm getting ready to inflict punishment on the Jewish people. And I'm going to do it quick. It's not going to take long. And that's the symbolism of the almond, that just as an almond takes 21 days from blossom to being ripe, it's quick. So too is this punishment going to happen very quick. 21 days, that's all it's going to take. That's it. That's the story. Now, what is an almond? Why an almond tree? What's really the hint over here? I get it. I mean, if the whole connection is the 21 days, fine, I get it. It's a connection. This is 21 days, that's 21 days. There you go. Boom. You have a nice prophecy or not so nice, but you got a prophecy. But in Torah, everything is, in the Torah, things are not just arbitrary. This is 21 days. That's when we made a shidduch. You match them up. There's got to be something more about the almond, more than just the fact that it's 21 days. An apple could also be 21 days. So a lot of things could be. And why an almond? What's the connection between the almond itself and the message? Is there any inherent connection between the almond itself, that God chooses to make the almond a fruit that grows so quick so that it can be a hint to the punishment that Jeremiah is foretelling? Or is it just, it happens to be, this is 21 days, I found, some connection. There's got to be something more to it. There's something about the almond that is connected to the message that Jeremiah is trying to convey. So it says that the almond, the nature of an almond is as follows. When it's young, meaning in the beginning of its blossom, it's very bitter. There are two types of almonds. There are almonds that are bitter and there are almonds that are sweet. The sweet almonds start off bitter. And then after 21 days, when it ripens, it becomes sweet. And that's the meaning. That's why God is hinting the churban, meaning the destruction, by way of an almond. Because what ultimately is the purpose of the destruction? Is the destruction there just to inflict punishment on the Jewish people? Is that what this is about? You didn't behave, so we're going to destroy the temple and just punish you and throw you into exile? Or is there more to it? There obviously is more to it. The purpose of the destruction is just like the almond. Our job is to take the bitter and turn it into sweet. That's what life is about. Not always is life sweet. You have sweet moments, and hopefully they're more than just moments. Hopefully they last a little longer than just a moment. But life throws curveballs at you. Things happen in life. Sometimes they're very bitter. And the purpose of it all is, why is God making my life bitter? Why is God putting me into exile? Why is God doing this to me? He's doing this to you in order for you to transform it into something positive, to make it sweet. Because sometimes the sweetest fruits come as a result of the most bitter days. And life is to speak to people that go through bitterness, and then they overcome it and they transform it. There's nothing sweeter. I don't wish it on anyone. But there's nothing like it. When you overcome a real challenge, and you're able to turn it around into a good result, there's nothing sweeter than that. So God is telling Jeremiah, what do you see? I see an almond staff. Now, by the way, we got to talk about the fact that he actually doesn't see the almond itself. He sees the staff, which we'll get to in a minute. If God wants to teach him the lesson of the almond, that you have to turn it from bitter into sweet, show me the almond. What are you showing me? The staff. The staff doesn't have the almonds on it. It's just a staff, a rod, an empty rod, a stiff rod. So that's an interesting detail as well, which we'll talk about, which is going to relate to the portion that we just talked about. But the point of the almond hint is the idea of transformation. Life is about transformation. Everything that happens in your life is for the ultimate purpose. And most of life, we're in exile. Our life is a life of exile. God took us away from the temple. Took us away from a state of being that is oneness with God, closeness to God, revelation of God. We don't see God. We don't even know what it means to see God. We have a faint glimpse of what they experienced. We don't even have a faint glimpse of it. We can read about it and have no way of even relating to it. So our life is that of the staff. Our life is that of the destruction. And the idea is that you should know that in this lies a deeper message. Which brings me to this week's portion. What is a staff? I asked you before, why are the Jewish people called matos? By the way, the word mata means a staff. Why are Jews called staffs? What's a shevet? The other word for tribes, I said, was shvatim, right? And singular shevet. What is a shevet? What's the difference between a shevet, which we're called most of the times, and a mata, which is also a reference to tribes? A shevet is a twig or a branch that is still connected to the root, to the tree. A twig that, even if it falls off the tree, it's still pliable, you can bend it, it's not so it's not so stiff. The staff is already a piece of wood that fell off the tree a long time ago, and the sap, the moisture has dried up completely, and now it's stiff. It's now just a piece of wood, a hard piece of wood. It's interesting that Jews are called sometimes a twig, and sometimes they're called a staff. Why? And the answer is because it represents two different experiences of the Jew as a collective, as a nation. There was a time that when we lived in Israel, the temple stood, our connection to God was very, very natural. In other words, a Jew felt that he was connected. His connection to God was apparent, was open, revealed. Like the twig went like this, like the branch that's still connected to the tree. The juice, the sap is still flowing through the branches. It is an open connection between the tree and the root, between the branch and the root. There are times in our life that we feel connected to God in an open way. On Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which Jew doesn't feel connected to God? You feel connected. It's a natural feeling of unity. I want to belong. You feel that you belong. It's a revealed state of Jewishness flowing through your branches, through your blood, through your consciousness. But then there's times that we don't feel that inspired. Or if you're talking about the collective, the time of exile, the Jewish people as a nation, once we were thrown into exile, we were cut from our tree, so to say. The connection to the root, so to say, is gone. It's over, or at least it seems that way. And what happens to us, to a branch when it's cut off the tree? The juice starts drying up, and it becomes very hard. That's the Jew in exile. That's the Jew in exile. When he doesn't feel that he's connected, he doesn't even know how to connect sometimes. He feels disconnected. But what happens is there's a silver lining in the whole thing. It's when you become very hard, become very stiff. Stiff is a good thing or a bad thing? One of the things Moshe says about the Jewish, God says to Moshe after the golden calf, and he's arguing it out with God to not kill, not annihilate the Jewish people as a punishment. God tells him, what do you mean? This is a stiff-necked people. Am ksheyorefu. It is a stiff-necked people. I'm tired of them already. And Moshe flips it right on to God, and he says, stiff-necked people, you're going to love that, the fact that one day you're going to love the fact that they're stiff-necked people. And what does he mean by that? How did Judaism survive in the last 2,000 years? Think about it. Think about it. Naturally, or it's a miracle. There is no natural explanation for it. But it is a miracle. But try to put some explanation to it. There's only one way. We were a stiff-necked people. We stuck it out. We were stubborn to be Jewish through thick and thin, through fire and water. We never gave up. So what looked like the biggest negative, which God says, I'm tired of this stiff-necked people, Moshe says, you watch one day how you're going to love the fact that they're stiff-necked people. You're going to break them off the branch, and you're going to throw them into exile, and the stiffness is going to be what keeps them alive, what keeps them Jewish. What could have happened to us in 2,000 years? What happened to many other cultures? What happens when you're thrown out of your land and you're thrown out of your environment? You don't have a common language. Think about the Jewish people in these 2,000 years. No language, no land. Then there's nothing that binds them together. What is it that binds them together? This one lives in Yemen, this one lives in Russia, this one lives in who knows where. They're all over, scattered all over the world. How are they connecting? How are they staying one nation? Their stubbornness to stick to the old Torah that they got. That's it. And it wasn't easy. They were persecuted for it. They were thrown into ovens for it. They were thrown into fires for it. They were thrown into gulags. You name it. They went through it all.
Rabbi, when you really think about that, it is amazing. The survivor, on how we survived throughout the years.
It's Matot. That's why we're called Matot.
It's one of the most common arguments for the existence of God among Christians.
Yeah, there's no question about it. You ask them, prove to me that God exists. There's the biggest proof, Jewish people.
The fact that the
Jewish people.
They're
The greatest proof of God's existence.
Prince Metternich ran the Prussian Empire at the height. Was asked one time, what's your argument for the existence of God? He says, oh, it's easy. He says, it's the existence of the Jews. Because there's no way. How many great empires, the Hittites, Corinthians, you name them, that rose and fell, and yet little Israel, thrown from its land and reduced in numbers so many times, and yet over these thousands of years managed to survive. There's no logical argument. There's no other parallel for it in history. There's been no other group.
So it turns out that when we talk about the prophecy of Jeremiah here, which we read, that he sees a staff of that almond tree, the simple understanding of the staff of the almond tree is that the staff represents the punishment. That the Jewish people are going to be, he's going to strike us with the staff. That's the idea here.
But can I also
and that's
say
why
something, Rabbi? Also, what you were saying, Howard, when you talk about surviving, but look what the Jewish people have contributed to the world throughout the years. That's probably more amazing than how they survived. Really, when you think about it.
It's both. There's two sides of the same coin, really, when you think about it.
Right, but it is amazing.
Stiff-necked people, people that are hard and hardwired, and they have they're stubborn to the point where nothing can bend them. Nothing can bend them. That's a people that's going to contribute. That's a people that's going to those are real people.
I mean, just look.
That's a people that are. Those are people that are going to make a difference in the world.
Just look at our time, at our age, where we're at, what we've contributed. Starting with the polio vaccine when I was a kid, like Jonas Salk. I mean, that's amazing when you think of all the accomplishments. I mean, look at the music in the last 50 years, 75 years.
I think the greatest thing that the Jewish people,
their contributions.
I think the greatest thing that the Jewish people contributed is much more than polio vaccines and music, which is important.
That's just
which
part
is important.
of it, right.
I think it's the ideas that everything the whole world today, all the morality and every bit of goodness that the world has is all from the Torah, is all from the Jewish people.
But
that's much more significant.
But then again, when you say with the coin, then you flip the coin over and you say, well, why is most of the world anti-Semitic with all these contributions that we've made? That's another story.
Yeah, but I really do believe that it's the anti-Semitism that is what made the Jewish people so stiff and so hard and so strong, so that they have, and because when you have no choice, they once asked Golda Meir, how does Israel win every war? They never win. They never lose a war. How is it that they always win the wars? She said two words, Ein Breira. We have no choice. There's no room for error. We have no room for error. We make one mistake and we're finished, and that's the end of us. The Arabs make one mistake, two mistakes. That's not the Jewish people. You make one mistake and you're finished. That's the anti-Semitism what made us who we are. I'm not I'm not saying it's a good thing that there's anti-Semitism, but it certainly created that stiffness and that hardness of the Jewish resolve, the backbone that kept us going for 2,000 years in the worst, absolute
Well,
worst.
just look at the Holocaust.
I know, it's just
6
exactly.
million people.
Those are the ones
Jews
that died.
dead.
I'm not even talking about the
And
ones
how
that
we survived.
I think I think you have to look at after the Holocaust.
Right.
It's the aftermath of the Holocaust, because there's the Jews that survived and had nothing left, and look what they did. Look what they were able to
I
accomplish.
know.
That's what we're talking about. So anyway, so the staff in the prophecy has two sides to it. It's the staff of punishment that's going to be hastened, and God's going to do it quick in 21 days, which is represented the hint of the almond. But he doesn't show him the almond, he shows him the staff. Why? Because really it's the staff element of the Jewish people that gave them the ability to transform and turn around the bitterness into sweet. Because that's what the whole idea here is. The whole hint to the reason that God is showing him a connection to the almond tree is this transformation idea. And how is that accomplished? If you don't have a staff element to you, you'll never be able to do it. Never. And that's why we're called staffs. We look at it, staffs, it's a derogatory term when you really analyze it. A stiff staff that has no sap, no juice, no life. It's the other way around. It's that stiffness, that hardness that gives you the ability to transform and to make this world take it from being a bitter place to being a sweet place, which is exactly what Arthur was just talking about. The contribution that the Jewish people brought to the world. We sweetened this world. We sweetened up this world. There's nothing in this world that's good that didn't come from the Jewish people. I'm serious when you think about it. The morals of the world came from us. I mean, and of course other people contributed to good things. I mean, but when you get to the core essence of mankind, of what keeps mankind going and allows for society to thrive, is the Torah, is the ideas that were brought to the world from the Jewish people. And how did they bring it to the world? In gulags, in persecution, which made them so hard and forced them to become stones, to become hard, stubborn people. So what God saw as a terrible negative in the beginning of our history turned out to be the greatest positive in the end of our history. And that's what Yirmiyahu is seeing over here. That's what God is showing him in this prophecy. The staff, it looks like punishment. But is that punishment what's going to transform them into incredible people that will bring the world the greatest sweetness ever, the best almonds that the world could have ever tasted? It's out of the destruction that happens. Now, when you think about it,
if we cleave to God.
obviously if we cleave to God, but that's a promise. That's going to happen. That's going to happen. The Jewish people are always going to be here, and God's plan for the world is going to be fulfilled. A day earlier or a day later, that's up to us. You can make it early, you can make it later. That's the only difference. That's the only thing that's left to us, is how fast it's going to happen. But that it's going to happen is not even a question. That's not a question. God's not creating the world for a failure. He's not allowing his enterprise to go down. It's going to happen.
I want to add another thing. I remember as a kid, 1948, when Israel became a state. I remember I was a young kid. That made me so proud that they won that war and they survived. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Who were these soldiers in 1948? Who were the Jews that did this? Think about it. Who were the Jews that were soldiers in that war? Orphans.
They
were all survivors.
Right.
They all had nothing in their life. They had nothing left to them.
Yeah. I mean,
Think about that.
Walking around being so
And if they
proud.
were, some of them
Well,
were,
not
only
there
they
were
came,
many
some of them were there
sovereigns.
from before, but even they were survivors of Russia, of the Gulag. They were survivors of persecution. Every last one of them.
Because my mother's sister,
Let's move
they
on.
left Poland, and they went to Israel, in 1920. You know, so these are tough people.
And this relates to our parsha. We'll go back to the 3 topics in our parsha. Every topic of this portion is about transformation, taking the bitter and turning it into sweet. First one is what? The vows. The law of the vows. What's the vow? Why does a person take a vow? Usually people take a vow when they feel that, generally in Torah, the idea of a vow is a Jew who feels that the mundane coarseness, the materiality, and the corporeality of this world is pulling him down. He's getting too caught up with the physical world around him. He's, I want money, I want fame, I want this, I want that. There's never enough, right? You're pursuing more pleasures and more self-centered temptations and so on. This is a person that feels enough is enough. I got to get away from this. I'm losing my connection to God. So what does he do? He takes a vow. I'm staying away from this. I'm going to never eat meat. I'm going to stop eating meat. I'm giving you an example of one thing, but it could be that thing that you feel is dragging you down. It's the abstention. The world around you is luring you into it. It's pulling you down, and you say, I reject it. I'm taking a vow. I'm not going to have anything to do with this. And you remove yourself from that. Is that good or bad? It's beautiful. No, it's a good thing, right? You would think. He's disciplined. He or she wants a better connection to spirituality and is working on themselves and making progress in that way. And if I have to stay away from the world for some time, I'll do that. But then the Torah says, by the way, it's an interesting thing. On the one hand, it says that vows, in the Mishnah it says, in the Ethics of Our Fathers, I think it says, Nidorim, vows, are a good thing for abstention. It helps a person remain, intact, so to say, spiritually. On the other hand, there's another statement by our rabbis which says just the opposite. That when you go and make a vow, the Torah is upset. God's upset. What are you making a vow? I forbade enough things in this world for you. The rest I want you to use. So what are you're vowing to make something that's permitted to you, and you're making it prohibited. You're prohibiting something that's permitted. Why is it permitted? Why did God permit certain things in this world? Because what's the purpose? Is the purpose to abstain from this world and run away into a closet and live your life as a hermit? No. The purpose is to engage the world, elevate the world, purify the world, make it a holy place, bring God into the world. How do you do that? By eating bagels and lox on a Sunday morning and making a bracha before and making a blessing after, utilizing in the holy way. You elevated the bagels and lox. I'm just giving you an example. So you go and you say, no, I'm not going to have bagels and lox. It's there for your elevation. What are you staying away from it? God needs you to elevate that. He created it for you to purify it, to make it godly. And you go and say, God, sorry, I'm not touching this. So God's upset. So which one is it? Is he upset or is it a fence around? It's a good thing. There's two conflicting statements. Obviously, the answer is that it depends who it is. Someone who's the world, the physicality of the world has dragged them down. It's a person that has to sometimes say, I'm not going to elevate it. It's going to bring me down. Instead of me elevating it, it's going to schlep me down. So such a person may legitimately say, for a while, I need to stay away. But what's the ultimate purpose? What ultimately is supposed to happen? The annulment of that vow. What is the annulment of the vow? You said, I'm not going to eat bagels and lox because I'm getting too caught up with it. The ultimate purpose is to turn that vow upside down and say, you prohibited it, now I'm going to make it permitted. In other words, to be able to engage the world, to transform this physical world and make it a holy place. The easiest thing is to run away. The easiest thing is to stay away. But that's not why God created the world. He created the world for us to engage it and to be involved in it and to make it a better place, to make it a godly place. And that literally means every last bit of this world. So the ultimate transformation is the annulment of vows. The vow is there because you're feeling that the world is pulling you down. So I have to abstain. But what's the ultimate purpose? Not to make the vow, is to annul the vow. To give you the ability to engage the world and take that what looks physical and very self-centered. It looks like it's going to feed my ego and my self-centered temptation. No, you're able to take that and transform it into something positive, into something godly. Follow?
Yeah.
Almost. Let's hear. Well, you don't like the chicken part. You don't want to transform chickens.
Example
Of what?
of what you're trying to say.
Example is bagels and lox.
I like that example.
So I gave you an example.
Elevated
Okay, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a simple example. Do you feel sometimes that the physical world is getting too excited about the mundane physical world, part of the world? Self-centered.
Sometimes you got to push back from the mind.
Yeah, you get. Don't you feel sometimes that? Let me ask you: how often do you feel godly when you're engaged in commerce and engaged in the daily grind?
Let's go to the next subject.
Well, man, yes, an example. I'm giving you an example. But that's where you have to transform. That's where you have to bring God into your business, into your money. Everyone pursues money. People like money. People like clothing. People like a lot of things. I want my car. Oh, it's a new car. I gotta get that car. You do? Why do you have to get that car? Because I want my neighbor to see I have a new car. Or I like this car. It makes me feel important. It makes me feel good. No, I'm serious. Let's not make light of this. It's exactly what we're talking about. In other words, there's a part of this world that you're getting too carried away with. You're missing the point. The point is that car is not. That car is there to serve God, not to serve your ego. But you don't see the godliness in that car. You see your ego fed. So sometimes you say, I'm not going to buy that car. I'm going to abstain. I'm going to take a vow. I'm not buying those things that I want. Because I have to break that ego, that temptation, that lure, that obsession with the things that make me, feed my ego. But is that ultimately what God wants? No, He wants you to get that car and utilize it for a good, holy purpose. Otherwise, He wouldn't have created the car. The things that He told you are not for you. He already told you in the Torah. Don't eat pork. Don't eat things that you're not allowed to eat. There's a lot of things you're not allowed to do. Don't go there. But that which He didn't prohibit, God expects you to go there and make it a holy experience. But you're saying it's not making a holy experience. It's making me much more involved in my ego. So a person says, wait a minute, I'm not holy, I'm not yet disciplined enough to engage in what God wants me to engage. Really, that's what it boils down to. God's put it there for you to engage it and elevate it and make it godly, but you're saying to yourself, I'm not disciplined enough to do that. All it's doing is feeding my ego. So what do? You make a vow, and you say, I'm not going to use that. What you're telling God is, I know you want me to utilize it, but sorry, I can't do it. So God has patience. He said, if your Yetzer Hara, so to say, if your animalistic side is too powerful for you to be able to engage every part of the world that I created to elevate it, then stay away from it. But ultimately, what does He want? Stay away from it forever? And then who's going to elevate it? How is that going to experience elevation? Who's going to reveal the sparks of godliness in that Bentley? There's a spark of godliness in that Bentley.
You need to explain to everybody how it's possible to elevate the Bentley to the godly. I know from time, but it would be helpful for everybody, I think, if you explain that.
Why? It's very simple. You drive it to Torah class, you drive it to good places, you utilize it. Well, there's a lot of ways you can use a car to I can think of a million ways to utilize the world around us for holiness. But what do most people use Bentleys for? To go to the next party and show you see what I got. The parking to get it, the first right. I got to get the first parking. Well, whose car is that? Oh, you didn't hear? Jack got a new car. Wow, Jack. Wow, that's beautiful. You're doing well in business. Start rubbing shoulders with him. You start rubbing shoulders. Feeds the ego. It's not there to elevate you, bring a godly spark into the world. It's there to feed your own spark. So a guy says, wait a minute, in this we're talking about serious people who say, I don't want that. He stays away from it. Most people don't stay away from these things. They just allow themselves to get sucked into it. This is a serious person. He says, I'm going to take a vow of abstention from this. But God's not ultimately happy with that. He wants you to know the vow and get back to the area where you can transform and make every part of God's world a holy world. And by abstaining, you're not going to be able to do that. So the first part of the parsha talks about transformation. That take that which you think is pulling you in the wrong direction and transform it, annul the vow and get in. And you could. What's the second thing? It's the story of Midian, the war against Midian. It's the same idea. It's taking that which looks bitter and turning it into sweet, like the Almond. These 21 days. It's always read in these 21 days, this portion. What's the story with Midian? They go to war, they destroy the negative elements of Midian, but then big part of the portion talks about the spoils. They're going to take the animals of Midian, they're going to take the gold of Midian, they're going to take the pots and pans of Midian, they're going to take everything that a Midian owns, and what are they going to do with it? Begin to use it in a Jewish way. God didn't tell them to destroy the booty. He told them to destroy Midian, but not their spoils. In other words, there's even in the most negative place of the world, Midian was the worst. Look what they did to the Jewish people. They were the worst.
But didn't Moses have a special connection with Midian?
He comes from it. No, he didn't come from there. He was born in Egypt, but
Right.
he lived there.
And
In Midian.
his wife?
Torah was a Midianite, yeah. But he converted him.
So, okay.
But with the Amalekites.
But this is Midian, yeah.
No, when you're saying Midianites are the worst. With the Amalekites.
Yeah, okay, you can argue who win the contest of being the
only
worst.
because God went the extra mile about destroying everything that the Amalekites had.
Yeah. So between Midian and Malachite, they'll fight it out. Who won the distinction of being the worst? But they're both bad.
I wasn't
But
really
what
trying to-
God tells, what's interesting to note that with Amalek, anyway, back to Midian. He tells them, destroy the bad part of Midian, but there's always this spark of goodness everywhere. That's the ultimate transformation. To take part of Midian and make it Jewish. The spoils, at least, you can use and utilize for God. So it's again, he's saying, don't destroy everything. That which is bad, get rid of, and the potential, bring out and elevate, transform, utilize in a proper way. Bring it into the realm of holiness. And the third one is the Gadites and the Reubenites, the two tribes that asked Moses for a portion in the land of the Amorites, the other side of the Jordan, not in Israel proper. Right? And he thinks that they have nefarious intentions, and they reassure him, we're going to go into Israel and we'll fight the wars, don't worry, it's going to be fine. And what does it mean that they go to war? What is war? War is battle. What's life about? What is life about? You wake up, it says, life is a battle between good and evil. Aren't we battling every day between the forces of good and the forces of evil? Life is a battle. Is God and Reuven, what was Moshe? What did they tell Moshe? Let's try to understand that for a couple of minutes. They tell Moshe, we want to stay on the other side of the Jordan. What was the reason they wanted to stay on the other side of the Jordan? Because they were shepherds. The land, the pasture was good land for pasture. Why were they shepherds? You know why they chose the profession of being shepherds? You ever analyzed that? The reason is because what does a shepherd do? What's his job? He takes the flock into the open fields, and while they're grazing, what does the shepherd do? He's not very busy. It's not a busy job. You're not engaged in it's not a very busy thing. They have time to meditate. While the flocks are having themselves, they're pasturing and they're grazing and all. They meditate. They sing. They do yoga. Whatever they do, they're in higher things. They're in higher things. A lot of people that are that are spiritual people, that's the profession they will look to do. It says all the tribes were shepherds. Our forefathers were shepherds. Why did they all engage in that kind of job? Because they were looking for a type of livelihood that would give them the opportunity to be more spiritual. And they would tell Moshe, we don't want to go into Israel. Going into Israel represented life as we know it. Got to get into your overalls, get onto a tractor, plow the field, plant the field, reap, harvest. I don't mean tractors literally, but the idea, or even worse, take on the ox with a plow, with the yoke. I mean, it was a hard job. It was life as we know it. They said, we don't want to do that. We want to remain on this side where we can be spiritual people. Moshe said, are you kidding me? The whole idea of going, you're missing the point. The whole idea of Judaism is to go into the world and make it a better place, battle the world and transform it. And you're telling me you want to stay there and be shepherds and stay away from the whole purpose of what Judaism came to teach the world? They say, no, we're going to go fight. We will lead the war. Not just we will go behind and be one of them. We'll lead the war. Oh, Moshe says, you're not looking to run away from battle. You're not looking to run away from transformation. We're looking to battle. My brother, no problem. Once they understood that they're not looking to remove themselves from the Jewish responsibility, the ultimate, which was to transform the world, take the bitterness and turn it into sweet, take the almond from blossom to the ripening of it. And how does that? And it happens quick. 21 days is all it took, right? How did that happen so quick? Because the Jews were staffs. You have the strength. When you're a staff, you have extra strength. And extra strength makes things happen quick. So this is the lesson of these three parashas, these three sections of the portions, all coming in the 21 days of this sad time, which really is sadness that's going to bring us to the sweetness of the ultimate geula, the ultimate redemption, which is why we're in exile to begin with. The exile is not only a punishment. It's much more than a punishment. It's a time that God sends us all over the world to make the world Jewish, to make the world godly, and then Mashiach can come. And that's represented in this prophecy of Jeremiah. He sees this in the form of a staff of a almond tree. The staff is what gives the ability for a quick and hastened transformation of bitterness to sweet. And that's why Jews are called staffs. It's the greatest advantage that we have, is that we are stiff-necked people. Because you could not go through a gulag if you were not stiff-necked. Impossible. It broke everyone. The only ones that didn't break were the Jewish people. That stuck to Torah and mitzvahs, that was stiff-necked. The previous Rebbe, I'm just giving you an example of Russia. But it's all over the world, is the truth. Today we have to find that stiff-neckedness. We became pliable. Not so good. The world, the secular world around us, which is so welcoming, has made us pliable. We got to find that stiff hardness that gets us through this most difficult time in our history. It's one thing to be in a gulag, which is hard enough. It's a very different thing to be in America, in a secular America, which you don't even realize they're being sucked in.
That's all right. It's about to remind us.
It's about to remind us. Well,
The trend is not our friend.
may God help that we should be able to see the beauty in this prophecy. While it looks bad now, it looks like we're fasting. We are fasting. The beginning of the 21 days, the end of the 21 days. It's all about mourning. But we're in the budding. We're in the blossom right now. This will turn into a very sweet almond very quickly when Mashiach comes. May that happen today and not even a day later. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Thank you for watching, everyone. All the best. We'll be back for more next week.